Hi, welcome to the next video in the Cubase Guru Synthesis course. This one is regarding control and modulation. The first subject we cover is envelopes. Now, envelopes are notoriously difficult to show you, but we can listen to them and I can explain what's going on here. So this is your basic envelope, known as an ADSR envelope. For obvious reasons, attack, decay, sustain and release. As you can see here, there's the attack portion, that's the decay, that's the sustain, and that's the release. So attack adjusts the time it takes for the level to reach its maximum, so this section here. From when you hit the key, that's the attack time till it gets up to here. Decay adjusts the time until reaching the sustain level. So once the attack time has reached its maximum level, the decay time is the time that it takes for the sound to come down to this level here, the sustain level. The sustain level adjusts the sustain level while a note is being held, so if you keep your finger on the note, the sustain level will loop round until you release it, and then when you release it, the release portion kicks in, and the release portion is from the time it takes to get from the sustain level to 0. Now I can't really show you that, but I can certainly let you hear it, and I can show you on a audio meter. So let's have a look. Okay, so here we have Zebra, and in this instance I'm using the original skin for the new 2.5. I just thought it would make a nice change. Over here what I've done is extended the Cubase mixer window so that you can see the audio. Well, you can see how the envelope affects the sound. Now if I push a key now with the envelope down, you won't hear anything. I've just got a normal oscillator with a basic single saw wave. Now if I put the attack up, if I put it up long, I can show you the attack time. You'll see it come up, hit the attack time, the attack level, and then drop off. Okay, I'll do that again. Okay, so now if I add some decay, you'll see the attack come up and then you'll see it decay a bit and then it'll fade away. You can see that. Okay, it just decays away. Let me just turn it up a bit and see if I can make it more apparent for you. It fades off a lot slower. There you go, that was a better representation. Now if I add the sustain, you'll see the attack stage will come up, it'll decay a bit and then it'll sustain until I take my finger off the key. That's the sustain level there. That's it. And then if I bring the release up, the attack time will come up, it will decay a bit, it will then hit the sustain level, it will continue to sustain, and then instead of falling away sharply, it will fall away over the release time. So that's it. That's your basic ADSR envelope. Nice and easy. Now we'll move on and look at the next section. Okay, the next section I want to look at quickly is another type of envelope. Now you can get loads and loads of types of envelopes nowadays. There's so many different parameters. You won't see these that often, but I thought I'd just show you it, just to let you know that things like this are around. It's got two extra portions. It's got a delay portion and a hold portion. It's exactly the same as the ADSR envelope. Attack, decay, sustain and release. However, it's got these two extra portions. It's got delay time, and basically what that is when you hit the note, you won't hear anything until the delay time is reached, then the attack phase will start. And then after the attack phase, you have the hold time. And basically what that is once the attack level's reached, the hold time will kick in and hold the note at that level until it reaches the end of the specified hold time, then the decay time will kick in. It's almost like a sustain level, however it doesn't loop. The attack time would come in, the hold time would continue to hold the maximum level of the attack time, And once it gets to the end of its cycle, kicks into the decay, then sustain, then release. I'm not going to show you that, it's perfectly simple to understand. So let's move on to the next section. Okay, one of my favourite things in Zebra is the multi-stage envelope generator. You can be really creative with this. I advocate lots of experimentation. Okay, to access the multi-stage envelope generator, click on this tab here, and there you have it. Okay, as you can see, we've got 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have a preset section here. There's actually no presets at the moment. You would need to create your own, which is very easy. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Something I just want to make you aware of, if you're using the multi-stage envelope generators in more than one instance, so let's say we have MSEG1 controlling the wave parameter and we have MSEG2 controlling the tune parameter. If I go to MSEG1 and I just draw in a couple of points like so, and then I go to MSEG2, you can see what I've drawn in on MSEG1 there in a kind of red faded out kind of line. Do you see that? And then if I was to draw something in on 2, go back to 1, you'll see 2 there. The one that you're working in is always highlighted, the brighter colour. Okay. Okay, so let's say I've created this preset here and I like it and I want to keep it. To save it, all you simply do is right click on the default section, select Save MSEG1 Settings, come up here, call it whatever you like, hit OK, and that's it. So to recall that, you would come to default, click on default, and then it lists what you've got. So if I click on that one, and you can see it previews them for you. Double click it, or just left click it, hit close, and that's it. Imported into the multi-stage envelope generator that you wish to import it into. Just to show you where it saves those, this is the location on Mac. And here. And Windows, it's here. On a 64-bit system, of course, that'll be different. For a Windows system, you'll have the brackets with ×86 in there. Okay, and as it says down here, the MSEG is basically a complex envelope with up to 32 segments. And instead of a regular sustain, you can loop through several segments. Every segment has its own slope. The units on top represent quarter notes at the tempo of the host application. Okay, let's have a look at that. Okay, so in here we can have 32 of these points, these green points. The way we add them is hold down Alt and left click. To remove them, Alt and left click on the point. These sections here, where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, those are quarter notes. So if I was to press, for instance, if I was to press play on Cubase here, if you watch the play meter, when it gets to 2, I'll press play and you'll see it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it will get to 3. Let me just make this a bit smaller so you can see what I'm talking about. As you see, it passes 4 sections before it gets to the bar. But obviously that can be changed down here, but we'll get into this bit in a bit more detail in a second. Okay, one of the most important features of the MSEG are the 3 drawing modes. You have independent draw, with time draw, and fixed time draw. Independent draw allows you to move point without influencing the adjacent point. You can't drag past the adjacent points. With time draw, this mode is best used to achieve regular envelopes. Basically what it does is, if you move a point, everything to the right of it, or everything that comes after it in time, will be moved also. And we also have fixed time draw. All points are horizontally fixed. So you can move them up and down, but you can't move them left and right. However, you can, by click dragging across several points, all the points passed will snap to the value of the mouse position. So I'll just show you all of that now. Okay, as you can see down here, we've got three little icons. The first one is independent draw. Now this is the one that allows you to move the node or the point, but it doesn't affect anything to the side of it. So we can move it like this, up, down, but it won't affect anything next to it, and it won't go past them either. The next one is with time draw. What this one allows you to do, you can move up and down, but if I move to the right, if I move to the left, I can't go back. If I move to the right, when I move this, everything to the right of this point, or any other point for that matter, will move also. You can see that? So if I have a point here, point there, and a point there, if I move that, they will all move like so. Again, that would be the best one to use if you want to draw regular envelopes. There you go, there's your attack, decay, sustain, release envelope. Okay, the third one, fixed time draw, is this one here. And what this allows you to do is it fixes the points horizontally. So if I move this one, I can only move it up and down. I can't move it left to right. But what this also allows you to do is if you left click and then drag, wherever the mouse goes, the points will jump to that section. So if I click this and then jump up to there, you can see the points follow the mouse. Okay. Okay, adding and removing points. I've showed you that already quickly. Command click on a Mac, Alt click on a PC. I'll just show you that. Okay, so if I hold down Alt, left click, creates a point, Alt, left click, deletes a point. Now if I keep my finger on Alt and then I left click and drag over points, it will delete them all. So if I do that, it deletes them all. Okay. Okay, drawing, option drag, control drag on a PC on a point allows you to freely draw an envelope. Show you that. So, basically, hold down control, grab a point and you can draw it wherever you like. Add another point, is that. And of course, that's really relative when you're using this option here because you can only go up or down. You can't go left or right, so if you hold down control you can do what you want. Okay. Context menu on point. Right click on a point to get the context menu, and that basically gives you a couple of options. Loop start, end point, or remove the point, which I'll show you now. So right click on the point, remove point, loop start, remove point. Obviously because we haven't set a loop start, if I set loop start there, and then here, right click, I can loop end. But we'll get to those settings in a moment. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the next section is the context menu in the editor pane. This is still part of the MSEG. If you right click in any empty area of the MSEG editor, you get a context menu with the following options. Half size, double size, upside down, unit snap, value snap, quantize the snap, unit spacing and even spacing. Half size, the envelope runs at double time. Double size, the envelope runs at half time. Upside down, inverts the amplitude. I'll just show you those three first. So if you right click anywhere in here, you get the context menu. The top three I was going to show you is half size. So if we make that loop, let me just come off that for a second. Just make it 4 bars long. So if I right click and go to half size, you'll see it's changed it to 2 bars. Double size, change it back to 4 bars. Upside down, inverts the amplitude. As you can see, it's turned the envelope on its head. Okay, unit snap. This determines whether the points snap to the time units and also the resolution of the snap. These are rhythmical values. Triplets, 16th note triplets and 32nd notes. I'll just show you that. Okay, right click. It's these sections here. You can turn the snap off. So if I press play, nothing's really snapping at the moment. These aren't snapping to anything. It's free form. If I right click and go to Unit Snap 3, let me just zoom in to show you this. By the way, I'm zooming in by left clicking and dragging down, zooming out by left clicking and dragging up. So we've chosen Unit Snap 3. So if I just delete these so you can see it easier, you'll see that in each section it only snaps 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So that's triplets pretty much. Right click, if we go to 4, we have 4. So 16ths. 6 will give us 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. 8. Okay. Value snap. Several modes that control the vertical snap value of the points. For example, if the MSEG is modulating the pitch of the oscillator, you can set the snap to 24 to create tonal arpeggios using the MSEG. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so here we have the MSEG set up on a 4-bar loop. I've just got 2 points here. You right click on one, loop start, right click on the other, loop end. I'll go into that again in detail in a moment. If you right click, here is the horizontal value snap details. Like if I put it on 12, you'll see the increments are in 12. If I put it on 24, you'll see it's in 24. And so on and so forth. So we'll leave it on 24. What I've done is MSEG1, I've assigned to the modulation knob here so that it's modulating the tuning of the oscillator. Let's just draw in some points. So hold Alt down, a couple of points, and maybe another one in here like so. And then if I double click here, it will widen this out just to the 4 bars just in this section. So double click, there we go, it's just the 4 bars. So now if I put that up to there, let's say, and then that to there, then maybe that one to there, that to there, and that to there. What I've done is created, well, just like a little arpeggiator really. So if I hold down C, as you can hear, it's rhythmic. Now, of course, you can put more points in and get more detailed with it. So we could maybe put that there, maybe drop that there, maybe leave that up there, put that up there. Oh. So now what we've got is so it's a cool little feature. Nice to mess around with that. Let's move on. Okay, quantize the snap. Snaps all the points to the currently selected unit. Unit spacing distributes all the points to the quarter notes vertically. Even spacing distributes all points evenly throughout the overall length of the envelope. Let me just show you those 3. Okay, I've got all these points. I set these points up to Unit Snap 6. But now I want to use Unit Snap 4. And I want to snap all of these points to that setting. Right click, quantize the snap, you'll see all the points move. Sorry, if I change it to 6, you'll see it move. They're already at 4. So if I quantize the snap, there you see them all move. If I want to put them back to 4, right click, quantize the snap. So that's them all in quarter notes. Okay, unit spacing, this one here, what that does is it quantizes the points to the quarter notes, remembering that 1, 2, 3, 4 is quarter notes, 5, 6, those are all quarter notes. And it does it directly related to how many points you have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. So this will space them out over 8 quarter notes. See that? And the last one, even spacing, depending on how many, well, it doesn't matter how many points you've got, all the points that you've got, say you've got loads of points, If you use that, it will space them out evenly over the length of the envelope, and the length of the envelope being the length of the loop. So if I right click and go even spacing, watch what happens. Yeah, they're all evenly spaced now. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Okay, pointer off, coarse and fine. The MSG visually displays its current position with a vertical line moving left to right. Because of the complex curve calculations involved, this can be turned off or set to coarse to conserve CPU power, but it's really only relevant if you've got a really slow machine. So let's have a look at that. Okay, it's this section here. It's just like the play marker in Cubase and every other workstation that you can use. So if we right click, we can turn it off, leave it to coarse, or put it to pointer fine. Now I'm not even sure if you'll see a difference, so obviously if it's off, it's off. Coarse, let's see if you can see the difference in fine. Yeah, you can see that. Fine's much, well, finer I guess. So again, if you've got a modern laptop or PC, just leave it to fine. Okay, let's move on. Okay, slope. If you click and drag on the curve itself, instead of a point, it lets you change the slope. I'll just show you how you do that. Okay, so here we have the curves. If I left click on this one, let me just delete that one so you can see it bigger. If I left click on this one and drag it up, you see the curve changing. If I drag it left to right, you'll see it turning into like an S, which is really cool. If at some point your curve gets all messed up and it's not the way you want it, to start again, just double click it and it straightens out. Nice and easy. Okay, loop region. The loop start and end point are blue to quickly distinguish them from the regular points. In fact, it depends what skin you're using. I'll show you in a minute, because that's true in one case, not the other. The envelope will jump back to the loop start point if the note is held longer than past the loop end point. If loop start and loop end are the same point, that value will be held until the note is released. If there is no more point after the loop end point, the loop will be passed through during the release phase. Let's just look at those. It says here at the top of the MSEG editor pane, you can see the loop region. You can drag the loop start and end point here also instead of designating a point using the context menu. Right, let's have a look. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is you can see here, that's the loop section and that's the start and end loop point. As you can see, they're not blue. But if I was to come up here and change to an empty dark horse and open up the multi-stage, there you go. And it's very clear there. I don't know why they've changed it in 2.5, because I think that's better. But who knows? Anyway, we'll go back to the original look. Okay, I'll just make this a smaller loop, so hold Alt down just to delete some of these. Just want to show you. Just move that out to there, make that the loop end. Drag it out. Oops. Okay, so if I hold the note down continuously, it just keeps looping. So pretty self-explanatory, that one. If the loop start and end point's the same, it will just continuously play that until you release. So if I just bring all of these over here, that's pretty obvious what it's doing there. Okay, if you have a different type of loop, let's set up maybe the loop start and end point here. Now, if there's no more points after the loop end, in the release phase, it will just continue going through here. So watch what happens. I'll let go of the key the next time, and it just continues to go through the loop point. And to move this section using the context menu, right click, you can use a half size, a double size, whatever. And one last thing, there's also the copy and paste. So if I want to copy that envelope, go to MSEG2, right click, paste, job done. Okay, let's move on. Finally, there's the zoom and navigate, which I've already showed you. But I'll show you again just in case you missed it. To zoom in, left click anywhere in here, drag down to zoom in, up to zoom out. Double click to go into the envelope, so it will show you all the points. Drag left and right to move left and right. And that's it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the next section is LFOs, or low frequency oscillators. Again, great tools for manipulating or modulating other parameters. One of my favourite things for controlling things like pitch on oscillators. Okay, so let's just have a brief description of what one is. A low frequency oscillator oscillates at a low frequency. Pretty self-explanatory that. For the purpose of this course, it oscillates below the audio frequency. Pretty much, if you were to connect an LFO up to an audio output, you wouldn't hear anything. Okay, a couple of prime uses for an LFO as a modulation source. Vibrato. This is achieved when you use the LFO to modulate the pitch. Tremolo. This is achieved by using the LFO to modulate the volume. And the classic one is to modulate the filter cutoff. Now let me just show you those three and let you hear how they sound. Okay, so again, let me just reinitialize the empty patch. I'll just add an oscillator. Okay, so make sure that's not too loud. Okay, so now as you can see, when we open an oscillator, it does open the LFO. This LFO is what controls this vibrato parameter here. So let me just make sure, I'll just turn this down. Okay, so if I turn the vibrato up, you'll hear it kicking into the you'll hear the LFO on quarter notes manipulating the oscillator. You may be able to hear it better if I do. Okay, so that's vibrato, and normally you could use vibrato for things like flutes and stuff like that. You'd have a little bit of vibrato so that when you play the note, you kind of get that moving breath type sound. And you also get the same kind of effect when you do it with volume as well. So if we modulate the volume with the LFO, just on a little, if I just do that a couple of octaves down. In fact, I shall change the oscillator waveform to something a little bit more pleasant. So there's an organy type sound. So again, if we modulate that with LFO1, so that's tremolo as it's called, and vibrato. And the classic one is controlling a filter's cutoff. So if we add a filter, we've got the cutoff here. If we use the modulator here, just change that to LFO1. It's now modulating the cutoff frequency. So that's your three most common uses, I guess, for an LFO with regards to modulation. But of course you can control whatever you want with an LFO. You can change the wave shapes here if you like. So if we come up here, LFO1. Can't really hear it that much, but it's modulating these waves. And of course you can modulate anything you like that can be modulated with an LFO. Okay, the key difference between LFOs and envelopes. A normal envelope works as a single shot modulator. It begins, it modulates, it sustains at the sustain level, then it ends. Of course, that's not the case if you were using a multi-stage envelope generator that we've just gone through, because you can make it sustain through the loop portion. But a normal envelope works like that, whereas an LFO generally repeats a single cycle wave. So If we look at the LFO, you can have all different types of waveforms, and it will go through one cycle and just keep looping that cycle. But we'll get into that in a second. So let's move on. So LFO controls. So you've got your basic waves. Most LFOs will have a sine, triangle, sawtooth, square, and random. So that's just information on how it affects the LFO. Random one's quite fun because it outputs random values to the LFO. And I'll just let you hear that. So when we're using the LFO here, let me just put it back to the tuning so you can actually hear it. Now that's a sine wave, and we'll slow that down a bit and you'll hear it properly. Triangle. Sounds very similar to the sine wave. Saw up. Saw down. But these are specific to Zebra, these ones. But the one I wanted to show you was random, because you get all kinds of weird stuff with random. Which is great for making sound effects and crazy sounds. Okay, let's move on. Frequency. The LFO speed or frequency control affects the frequency of the LFO. If the LFO is used to create vibrato, the speed control affects the frequency of the vibrato. The frequency of an LFO can also be synchronized with the tempo of the track, which in Zebra it is automatically. In this case, the speed's called rate. Let me just put that. So pretty self-explanatory. Depth or amount. This control determines the extent to which the LFO modulates the destination. And phase. Just the same as a normal oscillator will have a phase, so does the LFO. However, because an LFO is bipolar, their output will be positive and negative. Let's have a look. Okay, in this case, I guess the amp control is the depth and amount. So if I take the amp right off, nothing. You can hear it getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And the phase control, where you can put the LFO out of phase, just the same as the oscillator. So you're putting it out of phase. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Zebra 2 features 2 global LFOs and 4 voice LFOs. These modules, or the LFO modules themselves, become available in the right hand side of the rack as soon as you assign one as a modulator source, which happened when we assigned LFO to modulate the pitch of the oscillator. But I'll just show you again. Okay, so as we know, we create an oscillator and the LFO pops up. But now if I want to use LFO2, I have to activate it on a modulator. This being a modulator, left click, LFO2, there we go. Pretty easy to understand. The LFOs only show up when you add them as a modulator. Now, there are the 2 types of LFOs. That's a normal LFO, a voice LFO, and you've got the global ones, which are slightly different, and I'll go into the details of those in a bit. Okay, the common parameters of LFOs is what I've showed you already. These are the parameters that are specific to the Zebra LFO. Again, different types of waveforms, basic sine, triangle, sawtooth, starting from the low point is saw up, saw down is a sawtooth starting from the high point, square, high, low is a pulse waveform starting with the high point, square, low, high, the opposite, starting with the low point. Random hold is random values in steps. Random glide is random values gliding from one to the next. And user is a user-defined waveform. Choosing the user waveform from the LFO pop-up menu opens another multi-stage type envelope generator. Here you can create custom shapes for your LFO. Okay, let me just show you those. So again, as we had a look, we've got the basic LFO, and there's your different waveform types, and they all sound different. Pretty self-explanatory, easy to understand. The difference is when you start to use the user-defined waveform. Now let me just get rid of LFO2 and the global one for the time being. So if we come in here and hit user, we get this, which is like a little step generator, very similar to this. Okay. So what we've got here is, this is the Zebra 2 LFO using the user parameter or waveform. Every dot represents one step. The speed of the LFO is determined by the value set in the sync pop-up. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so you can see each of these is one step, and at the moment it's got 16. You can have up to 32 or as little as 2. And you can have it in lines as well. I'll explain that in a second. So we'll put it to 8 for the moment, let's say. And the speed is determined by the sync option here. So you can see at the moment it's 1.5. If I change that to 16, you can see it moving faster. Pretty easy to understand so far. As I said, it can have from 2 to 32 points, and it can run in steps or lines, which I showed you there. Okay, the LFO runs in sync with the host tempo, which is excellent for making rhythmic grooves, stuff like that. The tempo of each LFO is set by choosing from a pop-up menu. The available ranges are note values from 1 to 1, so whole notes to 64th notes, dotted note values from dotted whole notes to 132, which is dotted 32nd notes, triplet note values, which is whole note triplets or 32nd note triplets, and 2 to 8 whole measures. As one whole measure is equal to a whole note, it is grouped with the note values. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so the tempo of the LFO is set here. So you've got a couple of time settings there. Your normal 1/4 note, 1/8, 16/32s. You've got dotted, triplets, and your bars. So for instance, 2 to 1 means it will move on every 2 bars. Okay, within these values you can adjust the speed of the LFO using the rate parameter. At 100%, which is the default center value, the speed is the selected speed. For higher values, the speed increases up to 200%. So a quarter note will become an eighth note at 200%. For lower values, it slows down. So at 50%, it's half the rate. LFO at 0 stops it. Let's have a look. Okay, so we've got the rate value at center. So it's now moving at quarter notes. If I put that up to 200, it changes the speed. And if you slow it down to 0, it stops completely. 50 is half of that, so it's on half notes. And that's it. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Okay, this is still about the Zebra 2 LFOs. All LFOs feature a knob to adjust the amplitude of the LFO, which I've shown you already. You can adjust the phase of the LFOs by shifting the waveform of the LFO by 1 cycle, which I've showed you already as well, but just in case you missed it. There, amplitude and phase. And I'll just change that back to a sine. Okay, global LFOs. The global LFOs have the option to be re-triggered every measure or on multiples of a measure up to 32 measures. Let's have a look at that. So if we add a global LFO, shows you here that it can be triggered on every bar or up to 32 bars, and you can also use the normal sync options. Whereas the voice LFOs have a lot more options. So the voice LFOs can either run free or in gate mode. In gate mode, the LFO's waveform starts every time you hit a key. In free mode, the LFO's value is the current position in the waveform. Now let me just show you that. Okay, so let me just get rid of the global LFO. Okay, it's not affecting anything at the moment, and I'll just change that to LFO1. So what we have is LFO1 can run in free or gate mode. In gate mode, every time I hit the key, it will restart at the beginning of the waves cycle. So listen. Change it to free, will trigger, no matter what point in the cycle it will be, so it should sound different every time. Yeah, you can hear it. Okay. The amplitude and rate of the voice LFOs can be modulated. Choose a modulator from the respective pop-up menu, so just doing it the normal way. And the voice LFOs also feature a delay parameter that slowly fades in the amplitude of the LFO. So let's have a look at both of those. Okay, as you can plainly see here, we've got a modulator for the amp and a modulator for the rate. Self-explanatory. And we have the delay knob here, which fades in the amp setting, or fades in the amplitude of the LFO. So you can hear it vaguely getting louder. Yeah, you can hear it a little bit. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the next section is yet another favourite of Zebra for me, the XY pad. The XY controls are powerful tools to tweak the preset without actually changing its original settings. You can morph through whole landscapes, galaxies of freak-out modulations from an ordinary boring sound. Once you've had enough of the craziness, you simply just put the XYs to the centre and you're back to the original value. Okay, in this section I've supplied a preset called DM-DJM OBX Synth Modeler. I want you to load that up in Zebra. If you've got an old Zebra installed, you might already have it, but if you've only got the new one, you won't have it. It's a really old patch. So the way to load this patch up is you've got to use this method. So come here, import. This is in Cubase. If you're not in Cubase, you'll just use whatever method the workstation you're using allows you to import FXP files. And then go to the file I've given you, open that, and there we have it. The XY pads. We're only going to go over XY pad number 1. That's all you need. It really is that easy to understand. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're looking at here. Okay, all 4 XY pads are assigned to modulate certain parameters. We will discuss pad 1, and in this example it's set up to modulate the oscillators. If you want to have a look at the other stuff, pad 2 is set up to control the filters, and pad 3, which is set up to control the envelopes, and pad 4 set up to control the effects. So, what are we looking at here? There are 8 knobs to the left of the bottom part of the window. These reflect the X and Y positions of the balls in the 4 XY pads. You can use these to make sure you only modulate in one direction or reset only one of the directions by double-clicking one of the knobs. I'll show you what that means. So here we have the 8 knobs. Now, you can move this like this, and as you can see, the knobs are changing depending on where I put the ball. Now, if I've got the ball there, and I want to reset it straight to the centre, I'll just double-click on that, double-click on that. If I've got it there, and I want to reset the Y-axis, but leave the X-axis as it is, just double-click on it. And if you want to just move one of them, just use this. Of course, the better you get at this, you can learn to do it pretty accurately. And if you double-click on the ball, it shoots back into the middle anyway. Above the knobs are 4 tabs that will switch the display that represents the setup of the actual XY pairs, so 1 through 4. So that's here, if you watch, that's for, these controls are for XY1, those are for 2, those are for 3, and those are for 4. Okay, having a look at XY pad number 1 in a bit more detail. The X-axis in this case modulates the wave warp parameter. You already know what that is, but if not, check out the oscillator section. And it's modulating the wave warp parameter of both oscillator 1 and 2. Let's have a look at that. So here you can see oscillator 2 wave warp, oscillator 1 wave warp. And it tells you up here. So that selects the waves. The white triangles above and below all of the modulator range represent the maximum and minimum amount for each direction. So I'll show you that. These triangles here, if I put them in like this, it will only modulate that far. Watch for the little white line. See it? It won't go any further. Put them out like this. It will go out as far as those. So that's the modulation depth, if you like, almost. Okay, the triangle with the tip down corresponds to the axis movement to the right, x-axis, and up, y-axis, while the triangle with the tip up corresponds to axis movement to the left, x-axis, and down, y-axis. I'll show you that. So the one down corresponds to, as you can see, right on the x-axis and down on the y-axis, and the one pointing up is the opposite, corresponds to up on the y and left on the x. Together these two determine the range of the modulation. That makes sense. This way one axis can modulate completely unrelated parameters. Examine the y-axis of this example and how movement above the middle modulates the detune parameter, while movement below the middle influences envelope 3 decay, time, and oscillator 2 tune. Okay, so on the y-axis, if we come below the y-axis, watch what happens over here. If we stay dead in the centre of the y-axis and come down, you can see it's affecting the envelope 3 decay and the oscillator 2 tune. If we go up, bang on the y-axis, you can see it's affecting the envelope 3 decay, the oscillator 2 tune, and the oscillator 2 detune and oscillator 1 detune. So you can have it affecting all kinds of different parameters. 16 in total, which I'll explain to you now. The XY pad ranges. For each axis of an XY control, you can assign up to 8 out of 100 plus parameters that can be affected by the XY pads in Zebra. Hence, one XY control can morph up to 16 parameters. That makes sense? So each axis can do 8. There's 2 axes, so 8 times 2 is 16. Better yet, each axis is centered around the midpoint of the XY field. That makes 2 directions for each axis, positive and negative. Up and down for Y, right and left for X. You can scale the amount of influence for each direction separately. I'll show you that. So to scale the directions, if you left click on the triangle, you can see that's XY1 right. If you look up here, so I can scale the amount that goes right and left. Click on that, XY1 left. And the parameters are assigned down here, 8 there and 8 there. So 16. And it's very easy to do. So let's say we want to, let's just put in a blank patch, pop in an oscillator, and say we want to use the XY pad to control oscillators tuning and the LFO's rate. And in fact, we'll put the rate over here. So this side's X, this side's Y. So now, if I come to my perform, right, if I just press play, it's that easy. It's that simple to assign the parameters. And that's that section. Let's move on. Okay, just a couple of small sections left. MIDI Learn. To use MIDI Learn on most synthesizers, all you need to do is the following. Right click on the parameter you wish to control via MIDI, select MIDI Learn or Latch, move the hardware controller you wish to assign to the parameter. The hardware controller should now be controlling the software parameter. I'll show you how to do that in Zebra. So I want to, let's add a filter. I want to control the filters cut off with my hardware. Right click, MIDI Learn, job done. Very easy. Okay, automation. Automation is reliant on the application you're using. I'll show you how it's done in Cubase. Okay, automation. We want to automate the tuning knob using hardware. All we need to do is right click, select MIDI Learn, turn the knob on your hardware, and there you go, that's it assigned. So now, if I press play, that's it automating. And to record that, select the right button, press play. Stop it, come over here, right click, select show all used automation, and there you are. Now that you've done that, you can then use the tools by right clicking, select the pencil. You can draw in your automation, or you can use some of the features up here. So you can draw in a parabola, sine wave automation, etc. Of course, it's different for every workstation. So look at your whatever application you're using, whether it be Cubase, Logic, Ableton, Reason, whatever it may be. Look at your manual and find out how to automate. And of course, you can also do that with the mouse. You can come up here, put right on, press play, and just move it. Right click, show used automation, and there you have it. You can also, in Cubase, come into the automation parameters, select more, and there's Zebra 2, and there's all the automation parameters that can be automated. You just select one, hit OK, and then you can draw in the automation again. Very easy, very simple. And that's really how to record automation and to set up automation to a hardware device. You can also use the MIDI Unlearn, so now that will no longer be latched. Right click, MIDI Learn, it's latched again. Okay, so that's automation. Okay, and that's it for this video. I hope this video was useful for you. I hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.